3.
Welcome to
House of Whimsical Terror.
I'm Esther.
I'm Mary.
And we're coming to you today from Long Beach, California.
And we're telling real stories of the fantastic.
And all of our stories are true or told to us as true.
Occasionally we alter names to protect privacy.
And the same for some of the places. So.
This is it, our
yes.
super secret.
Our super secret episode that we've been telling you about. Yeah, I wonder if how many of you guessed that we're on the RMS Queen Mary, one of the most haunted places in the world.
Absolutely. So welcome to our show today. And we are in Long Beach for a very special episode with our friends.
We have Ash and Mel with us. We're so excited. And they are Long Beachians.
Yeah, that's what you call it.
Is that right, Mel, or do you call yourself something different?
That sounds good.
Okay, let's go. We're going to roll with
it. It sounds like a curse word.
It does. Kind of like it. We're thankful for this opportunity to share our show with you new folks, and we are here in the home port of the RMS Queen Mary, reputed to be haunted by over 150 spirits. Stories have been told by visitors and staff alike, and we even have a few of our own to report to you today.
Yep, we do.
But first, we have a bit of history for those who have not been to see the Queen. Queen Mary was said to have carried 2.2 million passengers during her peacetime sailing days and 810,000 soldiers during World War II. She was constructed in Scotland in the 1930s, and no expense was spared. She has a small hospital, squash courts, 5 dining rooms, and swimming pools. From famous celebrities to dignitaries, the Queen Mary carried them all safely to their destinations. Nicknamed the Ship of Woods, they used over 50 types of wood in building the Art Deco interiors. And 6 of those woods are now actually extinct.
Yes, sadly.
Yes. In 1939, she was refitted as a troopship for war service.
Yes, and behind us there's this beautiful, what is it, Mel? It's like what do you call it when you make art out of different pieces of wood?
It's a woodcut.
Yeah.
It's
I guess wood carving.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like a wood. It's beautiful. So many colors of wood too. So this is the cool part. I didn't know this. The Queen Mary was the fastest and largest vessel on the seas. In 1967, she was harbored at Long Beach, and today her history and beauty can be enjoyed by anyone visiting or wishing to visit. But what of these hauntings? Well, here are a few to consider as you make your way about the decks. The first of the reported ghosts is Dana or Dana.
We're not sure.
This young woman was staying in room B747. No, 474.
474.
I almost got that wrong. And was shot in the bath. She is said to make regular appearances to those who have been visiting and has been seen for over 50 years. Perhaps the most famous of spirits of the Queen Mary is Jackie, who is said to have drowned in one of the pools. She plays peekaboo and leaves wet footprints on the deck, though the pools have been dried for decades. Stateroom B340 is where the action is, though. Many stories surround the room, and it is perhaps the ghost of British war writer Walter J. Adamson. Mr. Adamson died in the room in 1948. Reports of sheets being pulled off the bed while guests were sleeping and a shadow of a man standing nearby are a couple of the tales. We can confidently say that if you take pictures on the tour, stay aboard, or video in the pool area, it is more than likely you will experience something more than excellent customer service. Now we will share a few stories of our own and invite our housemates to do the same. If you have stories of Queen Mary, definitely want to.
We want to hear them.
Yeah.
We want to hear them. So send them in. Either our Facebook, our Gmail at houseofwhimsicalterror@gmail.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. So this is a remarkable, remarkable ship.
It is. And something I'd never seen before, Mel, maybe you can talk more about this, was the whole section here, because it's like a museum, but it's also a hotel.
Yeah.
And it's everything. But I didn't realize that Churchill had stayed here on seven
times.
Different voyages, and planned a lot of the strategies for World War II.
Yeah, I mean the role in World War II for the Queen Mary was huge. First of all, I don't think anyone mentioned yet that this is the sister ship of the Titanic, and it's identical. So that also I think contributes to its kind of ghostly past, because its sister ship, is so tragically ghostly. But yeah, in World War II, this is the ship that Hitler was completely obsessed with. And he actually put out the equivalent of $250,000 bounty on the head of this ship, which, this is in the 30s. So that's an enormous amount of money. So, and it was considered the fastest ship in the Atlantic. And they actually referred to it as the Gray Ghost, both because of its color. They had painted it gray, and they had even painted over I think it's 1,000 portholes. They painted them all over so that they were bringing troops back and forth. Also, in the right before the war, I should have mentioned, the Queen Mary was also being used to bring people, to help people escape, as the Nazis, were revving up. But then they started moving troops, and it was the fastest ship and kind of the safest ship, and it continually evaded the German U-boats.
Wow.
And so, yeah, they had covered over the portholes and everything, and, was supposed to be this stealthy ship that would get kind of lost in the clouds. So yeah, and the fact that it traveled so quickly and was just impossible to find. To have such a huge bounty and all of these ships out there looking for them, and they could never find it.
I love that. I love that
too.
So much. And I love that they were, a rescue ship for people escaping the Nazis. It's just so great to know that people succeeded against fascism, and that it, confounded Hitler and his minions.
That's right. And I think that the history of the Queen Mary's fighting fascism and the United States, assisting with that is lost with the ghostly history of the ship. So I'm really grateful that they have like a museum dedicated to Churchill and his very instrumental role in assisting the world from escaping, Nazis. Nazis are bad, like in case anyone forgot.
But yes, it's kind of amazing to think about. I mean, they have on the Queen Mary, you can see like the actual chair he sat in when he was in that sort of war room, for lack of a better word, and just imagining all that happening on, like you said, Mel, this gray ghost that no one can see, and the windows being blacked out so you can't see light coming through. So it's just this,
And it explains the name of your cocktail that you had in
the
bar.
Oh, that was delicious. I had something called a Gray Ghost. It was absolutely delicious.
So cheers to the Queen Mary and the heroes of the war.
Cheers.
That's right. So
cheers to ending fascism too.
Wait, say that again.
Cheers to ending fascism too.
Yes,
that's exactly right.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Let's always fight fascism anywhere and everywhere.
Yes, worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very inspiring.
So So I think the ghostly history does tend to obscure some of that. But nevertheless, this is House of Whimsical Terror, so we're going to talk a little bit about the ghostly history. And I have a ghostly present story, which is, so we arrived here, we drove in and we arrived really late. And it was close to midnight probably.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're standing, wandering around, I guess, on the promenade deck.
Mm-hmm.
And there are photos on the wall with little descriptions of things, and they're photos of the Queen Mary through history, and some of the rooms and salons and some descriptions. And so I was looking at these photos, and of course I'm one of those people that have to read it all. I just have to read everything.
Yes, she does.
Because I'm kind of geeky that way. And so I'm reading it, and I see in my peripheral vision, out of the corner of my eye, this dark, it was like a dark figure. I thought it was Esther because it looked like it was like long, dark hair over my right shoulder. And so I'm thinking, well, she's probably reading this too. And so then I'm reading a caption to a photo, and I want to say something to her, and I turn, and she's 4 feet from me, coming toward me, and I'm like, what? Was that not you?
No.
That wasn't you. I don't know.
I astral projected.
Yeah.
Stand behind you trying to scare you. But no, it actually wasn't me. It was somebody who was mimicking you, which was mildly terrifying and so apropos for where we were. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was in itself quite the creepy experience right off the bat, because you know what? The Queen Mary doesn't mess around.
No, she doesn't.
No.
I had a very small thing happen years ago. I came with my niece, and I always do this thing where I like to, especially if it's in really cool haunted places, if I'm on a tour, I like to hang back and kind of the last one through where it's still a little quiet because everybody's already moved to the next room. So I'd been telling my niece that, let's just hang back. And sometimes I'd hang back longer, and she was ready to move on. We did that in the swimming pool. I really wanted to kind of get pictures and be in there when everybody else had moved on. And so there was an escalator that was broken, and it was broken. This is years ago. I want to say like 9 years ago. And when we were there, it was also broken.
Or perhaps broken again.
Broken again, the escalator.
No.
Yep. They don't like those newfangled things in the Queen Mary.
No.
So we were all walking up, and of course, wanted my niece and I to be the last ones. And so I went slower and slower, and we could kind of see around. It was cool. And I could hear her walking up behind me. So I looked back just to see if it's a very narrow thing, and I wanted to be sure that I wasn't like stopping too quickly. I didn't want to in any way endanger her. So I turned around to ask her if she was doing okay. And she's not there, but definitely someone had been walking up. I heard someone's like their pants rubbing together and their footsteps behind me on this escalator. And there's no one behind me. I'm the last one on the escalator in human form, I guess.
Right.
And I looked ahead. My niece was looking back, trying to find me, and she was about 3 people ahead of me.
Wow.
So that's really my only personal experience.
Well, I stayed on the Queen Mary before.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I stayed on the Queen Mary a few years ago, and we rented it was like
it was King George.
The King George suite,
because you couldn't get the Queen Mary.
Yeah, right. And so
I wasn't there. I just know this story.
Right. So this room, it's really quite large. Well, all the rooms on the Queen Mary are actually large, but not all, but many of them, they're larger than the average hotel room, let's say. But this was a suite, and it was very large. And you walked in, and to the left there was like a bath, and to the right there was like a maid's quarters with a sink and a bed, and then this little hallway, and there was a living room area.
Fancy.
And there was a door that connected it, like these large sliding doors that connected it to the Queen Mary suite, but we weren't staying in there. And then there was a bedroom. So it was ample amounts of room. And anyway, we were planning on going to dinner. So we had a little time to waste. And so we decided, like, we're just going to hang out in this very cool suite and read books. And so we're laying on the bed reading our books, and I hear these 3 very distinct, very intentional knocks. And they're coming from the porthole window. They're not coming.
And there's a lot of tourists on there.
Yeah.
And
all the time.
Creepy. Like, that's someone knocking.
Yeah, on the porthole, right? And so I ignored it because I thought, there's just a lot of people on the ship and could be anything. I hear it again, and I'm like, to my partner, what, did you hear that? And yes, I heard it. It's probably just somebody, like she said, it's probably somebody walking down the promenade that's just like banging on the window. And I'm like, that's just obnoxious. It's like really rude. And again, the 3rd time. So I get up because I've had enough of this misbehavior. And so I crawl, because I'm really short. I have to get up to look out the porthole window, because I'm like, I'm going to yell at somebody. Like, I can even open a porthole window. I don't even know how to open the porthole window. So I look out the window, and there is no promenade. In fact, there's nothing down there on that side. There's just water.
Yeah, because you're up high enough that there's there's no way for anyone to stand.
No, there's nowhere to stand, like on that side of the ship. It's just so. That was really. I mean, it was jarring, right? And so I didn't sleep the whole time. We were there like 2 days or 72 nights, and I did not sleep for like 72 hours. It was too much. It was just too much. That and we went on a little tour of the ship, and I took some video in the pool area, which is reputedly quite haunted and full of spirits. And I was playing the video back, and I didn't see anything over there, but they had turned the lights out, and it's just orbs through my video, and it was just like, oh my God, I'd never even recorded anything like that before.
That many orbs.
Or perhaps I'm not sure I ever recorded any orbs in my life. And it was really, that was extraordinary. And then I took some photos of the suite, right? Because how often am I going to do this? Like, probably never again.
Right.
But in the mirror in the suite, there are also orbs. And I was like, okay. So I spent, 2 nights in the Queen Mary not sleeping. And then I went back with you.
And we actually had a really relaxing.
Yeah, except for the person behind me, right?
Yeah.
It was really relaxing so far.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
Some of the things that we were told on our ghost tour was that there was a woman who worked on the Queen Mary. She worked for housekeeping, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And she walked past what is now the Winston Churchill room, which is the room he stayed in all of his voyages on the Queen Mary. And so it's a completely non-smoking ship, thank goodness. And she smelled like cigar smoke, and she thought, oh, somebody is smoking in the room. I should report it. So she called the desk and said someone that she gave the number of the room is in there smoking, and so can someone come down and tell them? It's really strong smell of cigar smoke. And they said, okay. And then they looked and they said, oh, there's no one staying in that room. And she said, oh, there's definitely someone in that room. That means someone's squatting or, stowaway.
Right.
I don't know if you can stow away when it doesn't go anywhere. But she had her key and she went in, and sure enough, there's this man, this large man sitting in a chair and smoking a cigar, and looked over at her, and she said, sir, you cannot be in here. You need to leave immediately. and he looked really angry. And he got up, but he was definitely interacting with her, like he heard her. And she said, "Sir, you need to leave immediately." And she stood her ground, and he came over, stood over her, and glared down at her, smoking his cigar and ignoring her, and then went back, sat in the chair, kept smoking the cigar, and then vanished.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Terrifying.
yeah.
So really, if you want to scare yourself or your friends, come to the Queen Mary. And
Yes.
you can stay or you can just come and visit. And go
Oh yeah, you can
explore.
like have dinner
lunch
like
or
we
dinner.
did with Mel and Ash. It was
That's
very
right.
nice.
Yeah.
So now we're just sitting, having some delicious brews that Ash got for us. But, okay, so this is probably one of my very favorite stories of the Queen Mary. And it is a story of something that happened to Mel. And,
Yeah.
Mel, you're going to have to tell the story. It's so
I'm
good.
pretty sure this is my favorite Queen Mary story ever.
Makes me laugh.
It's kind of an unghost story, but it definitely speaks to how kind of creepy and spooky the ship is, and it's a big ship, right? So Ash and I were here one night, and it was midweek, and there was no one here, and it was great because we ended up talking to. There were more people working on the ship than there were guests, and they ended up taking us around and telling us some ghost stories and showing us different areas that aren't normally accessible to the public, right? And anyway, that evening I end up looking for a bathroom, and I was a little bit lost.
Yeah.
So I find this very remote bathroom, and right next to it is this elevator shaft, and there's a plaque there that talks about that apparently this elevator shaft is haunted, and there have been a number of sightings there. So I'm reading that, and then I go into the bathroom, and when I come out, there's this couple that's standing there, at the elevator reading, and they didn't hear me come out of the bathroom. So as I approached, they turned and saw me, and the woman screamed bloody murder and like jumped into the air and like grabbed the guy, and he was making fun of her for being afraid and whatever. But then they go to walk away, and but I'm heading the same direction, and so I kind of just fell back and let them take off, because at this point they were walking really fast. But he's still laughing at her, and then I see him, and he keeps turning back and looking at me, and then and then he'll start walking faster, and then he'll go a little further, and then he'll turn back and look at me again, like to see if I was still there, if I was real. So I guess in this story, I was the ghost of the Queen Mary.
That's right.
I love that story.
That's so great.
Much. You're so innocently just trying to get to where you're going.
Right. I love it. Yeah.
We were so frightened.
That is the best. I love that. And I love
I wonder
that.
if they thought that I was the elevator ghost.
They probably did. There's like a whole, like, if we go online, there'll be a whole, the elevator ghost of the
other
Queen Mary.
probably is. Yeah.
They appeared in very modern clothing.
Right.
Yeah, because you're a
Stylish.
recent ghost. Like, no one knew that you had somehow died on the Queen Mary. Or you were so happy there that you went back to visit. Oh, that's one of the things that the fella said, is that some ghosts seem happy. And we always think of ghosts as unhappy.
Right.
But the ghost of Mel went back to a place that she was happy in.
That's what they will be thinking.
The real twist will be when I realize I actually am a ghost.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Okay, that gave me chills. I'm so easily scared by things. That was so good.
That was good.
Well,
so
I think we want to thank you, Mel and Ash, for joining us and having a lovely evening. We just spent this really great evening on the Queen Mary, and
thank you so much, and thank you for your stories and reminding us that
having some drinks with us.
Fascism is bad.
It really is.
Fascism is bad.
Yes, That's the moral of our show today.
Yes. And just a shout out to Ash for inviting us to the Queen Mary and saying, hey,
That's right.
you know, you've got listeners in Long Beach and this area, and Queen Mary is one of the most haunted places. What, top 10 haunted?
Top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
remarkable. And just such a remarkable piece of history. Yeah. It really comes alive. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So thank you so much. And thank you all to everyone that listens to us. And thank you for joining us. And, you know, come back and listen to more stories. And please share them with your friends. But for now, so long. Until next time when we meet back at the house.